Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Justin. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. It's good to be back for another week. It's been a massive week in footy.
It has been.
Sorry, we're experimenting with our sound a bit here.
I'm half
guys.
listening just to make sure the sound quality is good. So
I'm going to take that out, though.
yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. This is us introducing new technology, guys. We're winging it on the fly. But I reaffirm my point. It has been a pretty big week in football.
Very. This has probably been, you said off the air before the show, this has probably been the biggest week of news that we've had since we started the show. Yeah,
I think so. I think far and above, actually, this has been, and it's probably just because it's the time of year where these things start to come up. I mean, the retirements we'll talk about, David Teague will talk about, but these are the appointments at this time of year. It comes crunch time. So it's not just the business end for teams that are coming to the finals. It's literally the business end for coaches and officials and people like that as well. So it's a juicy time to be following the AFL. I am very pleased to see everyone in the comments here already. Docker Fan 101 pointing out that Hayden is leaving Freo as well.
He is. It was just announced about an hour ago. 2 hours ago that was happening.
Just after I actually wrote my notes, so I didn't write his name down on my retirement.
No, that's okay.
Sobbing for Ballas nonetheless.
Look, before we get started with the news and everything over the week, we've got two things to address. Now, we've got our questions to exchange.
Yes, we do.
But we've also got our certainties to address before we start the rest of the show, okay?
We do.
Normally with our certainties, if we get them wrong, we get a punishment. If we get them right, nothing happens, right?
Yeah.
However, both of our certainties won by such big margins and in such a dominant fashion, we thought that we deserved a treat.
Yeah, we're gonna go against the grain. I had to eat garlic last week for anyone that was watching. That was the worst one yet. So I am very, very excited to be chewing on a Monte Carlo.
Yeah. So we're rewarding ourselves today.
This is a pat on the back and a well-earned one.
That's right.
It's a lot better than a clove of garlic. Can we just do this every week? I'll be pretty happy.
We will if we get it right all the time. So.
Yeah, by significant margins, of course. Barry Boy's watching the cricket tonight. I'll be there with you watching after the show, but, prioritize us, right? I mean, cricket's probably going to be a rain delay at some point.
So,
anyhow, biscuits aside.
We've got some things to address. Our questions first. Now,
yes,
we're doing it slightly differently this time. Normally we have all of our notes and everything written down, but this time we've done it a little bit differently. We're working off of the same page and everything.
Yeah.
We're going to be exchanging notes like school children.
Absolutely. I'm
with our questions on them. Now the reason for this is because obviously because we're working off the same page of notes, we normally have our questions on our own notes to ask each other, but we decided like ages ago that we were not going to have our questions spoken about at all until live on the show, so we don't know what each other is going to be saying.
Exactly, and you've got to make a case on the fly, which is particularly hard when you've got to make like cases for just. I can't even remember what it was you asked me last week, but I'd got so absorbed in the show prior to having to answer it that it came to me at a moment where I just didn't even have a case for it. And I was like,
well, last week we didn't do the questions because I spent so long setting all this up.
Okay, it's got to be the week before.
It was the week before.
Got to be the week before.
Thank you, Bomber. All right, so this is your question.
And here is yours, sir.
Thank you. I'll read out mine first. The questions. The Crows have come out and said they're open to trading the Carlton pick as they look to restock quantity of young talent. I am to argue that this is the wrong move. Good.
Yeah.
I'm
I
happy
need
with
you
that.
to tell me why they have to keep this pick that they have instead of trying to get a wealth of picks or perhaps even just one more pick behind it.
I'm happy with that.
You have asked me Was Rhys Shaw appointed too early? And I am to argue that no, Rhys Shaw was not appointed too early. He is the right man for the job.
Yep.
And he will lead North Melbourne into a bright and breezy future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm iffy on that. I'm not overly thrilled.
No.
But okay.
Like, I don't even know that that's where you stand, but after the week, I know that that's where everyone is questioning. So
I'll take it on regardless.
That's why I'm arguing it.
It's weird because I was happy to see him lose on the weekend, given that, I had bagged the Cats in as my certainty. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
well,
no, all right, I'll take that on board.
Let's get started. And on the topic of caretaker coaches,
yes.
David Teague was officially announced today as the official coach of the Blues.
He certainly was.
Given that Rhys Shaw was announced 2 or 3 weeks ago, and at the time, even though we both decided it was the right move, it was probably made too early. You could have made that same decision at the end of the year. 2 weeks on, Carlton have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same?
Different cases. I think different cases. Rich Shaw had the support of his playing group, but not the vocal support that David Teague had.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen a press conference where they announce a coach and he walks in and just dozens of players just explode with claps and hoorays and everything like that? I mean, it's almost like I think it's too much carry on, but then I think of where they've come from and how that sort of signifies to me the players are hungry for success.
Yeah.
So,
well, he's won, 6?
5, I think. I think 5.
5 games?
Yeah, 5 games since he's taken over. And he's been great. I mean, no doubt he's earned it. He's absolutely earned it with even just the positives that he's brought out of a football club that just looks like they had no positives at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with them appointing him. But I am wondering if I'm buying the hype. Or if I'm trying not to buy the hype, I suppose.
See, for me, the situation is different because Carlton's been down for so long and he's obviously come in and had this immediate success. Now, obviously, the game plan... So the same thing happened with Brendan Bolton. Brendan Bolton came in and had he had 8 wins in his first year.
Yeah, he did okay, didn't he? Yeah.
And the reason for that is because he freed up the players. The players were playing in their positions and everything. The reason that Brendan Bolton ended up failing was because his overall game plan sucked.
Yeah, it didn't do well in modern football. It was not the way that they needed to be playing. And it particularly didn't maximize the strengths of the players that he had, which is kind of all David Teague's done. He got in and he was just like, okay, well, we've got these guys that are really good at this. And we've got these other guys that are really good at these things, like, and it freed up guys. Like Sam Walsh was already good when Brendan Bolton was there, yes, but he has been better since David Teague is there. And it shows. Mm-hmm. I have no problem with the appointment, and I probably don't have any problem with the timing of the appointment.
Yeah.
Sort of gets rid of the question that might hang over your head at the end of round 23 when you know you haven't made the finals and you've got to make a call. So it eliminates questions and it's pretty decisive, so I like that. But I just don't know if I'm going to buy the hype on Teague until I can see it as him being the full-time guy with a preseason under his belt. And then we'll see how they go.
Yeah, we'll see. Because I think next year, given their list, because they do actually have a pretty good list, and their age bracket is coming up now.
Yeah.
I think next year... Maybe they don't make finals, but I think they should be one of the teams pushing for finals.
Well, while we're talking about Carlton's future, let me ask you this. The talk is growing that Stephen Coniglio could be on his way to the Blues.
Yeah.
Whether that's substantial or not, let's throw that aside. Let's say hypothetically he goes there.
Yeah.
Are the Blues a finals-bound team if they add Stephen Coniglio?
I'm not sure. That's hard to say. What I can say is that Coniglio will near on make Carlton's midfield one of the better midfields in the competition.
I don't even care if they make finals or not of that. I just want to see a season of Cripps, Coniglio and Walsh.
That's right, yeah.
Oh my God.
Plus you throw in players like Curnow through the middle.
Yeah. I don't know who else they really run through the middle at the moment.
Fisher, one's on the wing.
Yeah. Petrovsky-Seton will grow another year, and hopefully they take another leap forward.
They will have a very dangerous midfield.
I think if he was to go there...
Cripps is obviously going to have a lot of the load taken off of him next year.
Also, last year they took a massive swing on Dylan Shield. That went nowhere. If they can pick up Canelio, it's like, who cares?
Well, Canelio's a better player, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, who cares if we missed on Dylan
And he's
Shield?
a much better inside mid as well.
Yeah,
which definitely frees up.
It would almost
Cripps.
make missing on Dylan Shield an absolute blessing because it
Probably.
freed up the space to go and
but
get
they thought
Canelio.
I think they thought that Canelio was never going to go. And at the start of the year, he was never going to go to the Blues. But since David Teague has come in and done what he's done.
I think this is the deciding thing, right?
Yeah.
Which made me wonder during the day. I highly doubt that Stephen Canelio's decision is what is turning the wheel at the Carlton Football Club. But if they were thinking, hey, we can get someone of this caliber in if we can get Teague on board and maybe have another win to end the year and really sell it to him, why not? Why not?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Is that the kind of decision you make for a peak midfielder of the competition? Potentially.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next topic. And the next topic on our list is a very odd...
This was the best story of the week. Like this,
I read this last night. So I finished work and I read this last night, and I thought to myself, if this story is true, you are an absolute muppet.
A bell end of the highest order.
Because
so it's so funny.
Braden Sire has been out for the last 3 to 4 weeks with a calf injury. And so he decides to go down to his mate's basketball club.
Like a Div 3 basketball club.
And play some basketball. He scored 6 points. Their team won by 6 points.
Yeah.
And he lied to the Collingwood club, said he didn't play. He was just there, messing around at halftime and everything. The opposition team knew about it, but decided to not pursue it.
I don't know why. They lost by 6 points. He was the deciding factor.
And the best thing, his name on the team sheet was fill-in.
All-time #1 pseudonym. Like, all time.
I love
that.
That
is
so great.
Funny, man. I read this story and I was just like, man, Collingwood players can all play football quite well, but their IQ is just down the drain, man. Stevenson's out there gambling. This guy's out there playing Div 3 basketball. Degoe, that time that he was, I don't know, he broke his hand punching someone or something and said it was his dog's fault.
Yeah, and the year before, Jeremy Howe did the same thing.
That's right. It's like,
I don't know.
What's going on at the Pies? Get you guys out of training for a day and just sit them at TAFE or something just to get some brains. I don't know. I loved it, though. It actually broke up the week of what was actually quite serious and somber news. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Phil In has scored 6 points.
No.
Amazing.
I was thinking to myself, because the story could have gone any which way. And I found myself thinking, there is no good way for this story to end on a positive note for Collingwood.
Not for Phil, especially.
No, definitely. Phil, get that guy out of the league.
I will be addressing.
I reckon he's playing for every team in that league.
It's how I will be addressing Braden Sire from now on. His name is now Phil, and there is nothing anyone can do to change that for me. What do you think is an appropriate punishment? What do you think gets done about this? Is it a suspension? Because that's what they're thinking about, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but they're only going to suspend him until finals. Yeah. Which is meaningless because they've made finals.
Him and Stevenson are both going to come back.
Yeah. A suspension at this stage of the year when the finals is looming is completely pointless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially because he's on the injury list at the moment. So suspension, unless they suspend him after he becomes available.
Yeah, that could be a different story.
That could definitely... I suppose if Collingwood think they're probably not a chance to win this year, then maybe they do that to hurt him.
Yeah, potentially.
But considering has he re-signed?
I don't know. What I'm wondering is, do we already know how long his injury is? Like, it was I don't even know what kind of injury
it was a calf injury.
Calf injury. So if they put a time on it for when they think he should come back,
I haven't looked at their injury list. So they can then
sanction him? Because if that's like a TBA or something like that on the injury list, then it's like, well, they could just act as if they've sanctioned him for a week after he's available,
Yeah.
But if we already know how many weeks it's going to be, then they can suspend him with some merit. But I don't know, man. It was still just
it'll be interesting, especially because of their injury list, and if he is available throughout the finals, but has made himself unavailable through this, that's just going to hurt Collingwood so much more.
Yeah, I don't get it. I haven't really been following Collingwood, so I don't even really know what kind of form he was in. But
well, he wasn't. I think he got. I want to say he got
took
dropped,
a long
but I'm not
time.
sure.
Well, he took a long time to come into the side this year.
Yes,
I know that, but the rest of it, I'm not sure. But should we speak about some more guys that are going to? Well, they're not really missing games. I was going to use that as a segue, but they're stepping away from the game entirely.
Yeah. There's a few.
And I pointed out 4 on my Twitter today because it just sort of struck a chord with me that Nick Smith from Sydney, champion, Jarryd Roughead from Hawthorn, and obviously Aaron Sandilands and there we go, Jarryd Roughead in the background, right between us. It's like he's right with us. This is really good. And then obviously Sandilands and Ballantyne from Freo.
Yeah.
It sort of signified almost an emotional end to the 2012-2015 sort of era for me when those 4 guys, obviously Sandilands and Ballantyne on the same team, had some epic battles.
Mm-hmm.
And
Nick Smith's probably the most underrated small defender the competition has ever seen.
I would totally agree with that.
If you were walking down the street, he was probably the best small defender in the competition over the last decade, I reckon.
Well, if we're talking
if you walk down the street, you wouldn't even recognise him.
No. And if you're talking about battles that they've had, I mean, him v Ballantyne was a regular fixture for Sydney versus Freo. And it was just awesome. Like, those 3 sides were perennially in the top 4 for about 4 straight years. And it was a really good, like, for me as a Fremantle fan too, because that's the only period the club's had sustained success for, to see them all step away. I was a bit emotional today, even with the Ballantyne thing.
Yeah.
That one crept up on me because Sandilands, I was like, well, I know that he's going to be stepping away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
You could probably argue he was probably right to go for next year if his body, if his body held like
Sandilands or
Sandilands.
Yeah.
But Ballantyne's gone. He's shot. He shouldn't have played this year.
It's hilarious because I've been calling for Sandilands to step away and let a young ruckman come through with those minutes for like 2 years now. And the day that I start advocating, or like the week that I start advocating for him to stay on the back of his performance against St Kilda and the week before against the Dogs, Geelong. I thought he was brilliant. I was like, maybe you could go another year and help us out. Who knows?
I mean, Sean Darcy's clearly the way forward. Yeah. He just needs a bigger tank on him.
Yeah, he needs to just keep conditioning himself. He's still very young for a
very
position
raw.
Very raw. But to see all 4 of them go, and I mean, the one we're not talking about right now is Ruffy, the guy in the middle of us.
Yeah. And to be honest, he's probably still good enough to play AFL.
Oh, yeah, I think so. If he wanted to go to the Gold Coast or something like that, they would take him.
Yeah, but he's ruled it out though.
Yeah, he's ruled it out because I just don't think. Yeah, it's not for him.
No,
it's not. He ends.
I think he bleeds brown and gold more than Sam Mitchell and Luke Hodge did.
Yeah, I think so too. I think which is a
massive statement. I understand that because those 2 guys bled brown and gold.
Not to understate, how much passion they had for that.
But I just think that's how passionate Roughead is about this club. He's given his heart and soul and done absolutely everything he possibly could. Whether that means standing down in the VFL so that other players could get his game time.
I mean, and if you're Jarryd Roughead, why would you want to go slug it out and get belted for a year just to collect a paycheck that you probably don't need?
That's a good point. Yeah, Joel Delidio's gone too.
Yes.
And he's probably actually done for the year as well.
I think he is, and I think that would be why he stepped away, isn't it? I mean, he's kind of like, I'm not playing again this year.
Well, he's not.
Did he
he's
announce
not
retirement for season's end.
He's announced the retirement for season's end.
Right.
So the Giants will make finals. They might win their first final. If they win their first final, he might be available for the next one.
Yeah.
So if they keep going into the finals and they make a grand final, he may play.
He may pop.
He may play a prelim, but he should be available at that time.
Yeah.
But more than likely, he's probably played his last game.
Well, it's also he's a super sad case of a footballer, just bad timing, of bad timing for a footballer. Like he leaves Richmond, and it was the year after they won.
Well, see, the thing with the Richmond case is there was an argument made that I read on Reddit, that if Delidio had stayed at Richmond for 2017, they probably don't win the premiership. And the reason is because they ended up getting Caddy, Nankervis, and another player out of that trade alone.
Yeah. And
with the picks and stuff that they got for it. So,
okay.
Without those three players coming in for the one Deledio, who was obviously injured, for the last 3 to 4 years of his career, Richmond probably don't win that grand final.
That's a very good point, because Nankervis and Caddy, I don't know who the other one was.
I can't think of who the other one is. Maybe Graham.
Potentially, who was outstanding on the weekend.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point to be made. From an emotional standpoint,
Deledio, who was the absolute heart and probably the heart and soul of Richmond after Richo left.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. He carried that.
He probably was the sacrificial lamb so that the Tigers could win the premiership.
Yeah, which is really sad, because he was a plug between Richo and Cochin. Really, was kind of what he was.
Yeah,
and I would Stats and facts aside, the fact that they wouldn't have won it if he didn't move on.
It was very sad that he wasn't able to get it.
I would still have loved to have seen him get up and win one, and he's been really good for the Giants too. I mean, like outside of like maybe the last year and a half or so where he's sort of battled away with injury.
It's not even
prior to that.
Even the year 2016, so his last year at Richmond, he's barely been on the park since then.
Yeah, but he's still. I think he played some good games for the Giants. 2017, 2018, somewhere around that. Potentially.
Maybe like 1 or 2. I think it was only ever in the side for like 3 games at a time before he got injured again. So Nick Smith, banana. We've got 2 other things that we want to talk about. Nick Nat is almost a certainty to come back for finals.
Almost, yeah. I mean, given the fact that West Coast is going to make a deep run because they're going to get some home finals.
If he does come back in finals, that means West Coast may be one of the only teams in history to play finals with a full-strength team.
A full-on, healthy best 22, which
so if
could be pivotal in such a close race.
If they do, and they don't get any more major injuries from here till the end of the year, whenever that may be for them, and they don't go back-to-back...
Yeah, that's... Yeah, it actually puts some... They probably don't feel it.
On them,
it does put some pressure on them. Probably pressure that they don't feel internally. They probably don't care. They're just a matter of getting it done. But it's certainly helping them in the landscape at the moment, because I'm still, like, I think I say this like every week, I'm still yet to see West Coast really leave second gear. And their health is sort of a big help in that, because they're just sort of in cruise control.
I do think over the last few...
Maybe last
probably
weekend,
since the Pies game, I think they've been changing gears.
You're playing with a little more intent?
I think they've been changing gears now, yeah.
Yeah, and it's time to. You don't want to enter finals
coming into the back end. Well, this
gear.
is the biggest game of the year, isn't it?
100%.
This
100%. With playing Richmond, 100%. It is the biggest game of the year, which is funny because literally in another game this week, obviously we'll run through the game soon.
We have the top 4 playing this week.
In another game this week, we've got second versus first, but it's the third versus fourth that's going to be the biggest game of the year. And they're the premiership. They're the top 2 in the premiership favoritism.
Yeah, that's right.
Richmond and West Coast.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge. I did like seeing the headline that the Richmond wouldn't be pressured into rushing Cochin back for this game.
Yeah, so he's not playing. I wonder what that does.
Significant yet smart. I'd like that Richmond's a club
You'd
that
rather
will make
save
that
him
call.
for the finals than a home and away game.
I really like that Richmond's just a club that backs themselves in and says, "Hey, you know what? Like we're gonna back our guys, and no, we're not gonna rush you back." And I like that. Like clubs that are teetering around the 8, they don't make those calls. They just say, "Hey, you're in our best 22." We don't like Ollie Wines is about to play with a thumb that could just break at any moment, and they're going to play him because they need him. Richmond just backs their guys in week out, and it's obviously a luxury they can afford. But I like the call. Nick Nat, to speak of, what are your thoughts here? Is it just some excitement, or is it
he makes a difference in this team.
Yeah.
So before he was injured in the Collingwood game, which they obviously lost by a point, I would argue that Nick Nat was very clearly beating Grundy.
Yeah, I caught that game, and I remember Grundy, he was quelled, and then when Nick Nat went down, Grundy played huge, didn't he? Yeah.
So if Nick Nat can come back, right, and he can beat the likes of Grundy in a finals,
and
then obviously dominate a player like Nankervis Or I don't know how he would go against Steph Martin. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously Geelong don't have a recognised ruckman. He could be the single player to make a difference in the finals.
I think that's where the difference comes in, is that Nick Nat, a rehabilitating Nick Nat, a Nick Nat that's coming back into the game off another injury, is probably going to give you the same offensively, or the same, not the same, obviously it's improvement, but almost the same offensively as what Hickey might give you. But Hickey's also going to allow Nankervis and Grundy and whatever other ruckmen are in the finals could probably run rampant on Hickey while Hickey sort of finds his own ball and things like that.
Yeah.
Nick Nat's able to quell influence far more than Hickey and level the playing field with that ruck. So I think that's probably where the difference is made by putting him in. No question, you put him in.
Oh, 100%.
Not a question at all.
If he's available and he plays.
Yeah. The only risk that you run is if he goes down mid-game of an important game and you're left with a rotation down.
Yeah. But in saying that,
it's a risk that you take.
The team is almost a rotation down with him in the team anyway.
Yeah,
because he uses the rotation so much.
Yeah.
So I don't think it changes too much in the team structure.
And clearly,
other than the benefits very much outweigh the negatives.
Yeah, I think so, by far. And you get him in, and if he makes a difference, well, then it's a hell of a call.
Now, before we move into the teams, we did want to make a mention. Now, obviously, this player was before our time.
Yeah.
However, it should be noted that this player is in 6 teams of the century. So that's East Perth, I think West Perth or South Fremantle.
I think West Perth.
The WA team, the VFL team, the AFL team of the century.
Yeah.
And there's one other that I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I can't remember what the other is. But it might be the, are you talking about the Indigenous team of the century? So
he's in 6 separate teams of the century as a first named ruckman, and that's Polly Farmer.
Yeah.
Polly Farmer yesterday passed away in Perth on a case of dementia.
At the age of 84. Surrounded by family, I believe.
Yes.
Yep. Which is lovely.
The game has probably lost the best player it's ever seen.
He is an absolutely revolutionary ruckman, and I want to point out, obviously, like you just said, he's far before our time. I have not watched much Polly Farmer at all, yet I have grown up knowing
his name,
that he was an absolute icon. There's a goddamn freeway in Perth named after him. I mean, you can't understate the influence that Polly Farmer had on the game, particularly at the ruck position.
He's a player that played the game 50 years ago. He'll be a player that is still known in 50 years' time.
And you can't give me many players that played 50 years ago that I can rattle off the top of my head right now and go, hey, in the 60s, this guy was really good, or in the 50s, this guy was really good. I can tell you right now, if you ask me for a player in the 1950s or 1960s, the first one that jumps to my mind is Polly Farmer. And
what's interesting is he only played 4 or 5 seasons of VFL.
Yeah.
Yet still played, I think, 394 state-level games.
Yeah. Yeah,
most of it being in the
Perth,
WAFL.
Yeah, which isn't almost an accolade in itself, where the WAFL at that time nowhere near the powerhouse that the VFL was. Yet Polly Farmer was good enough to go over and absolutely
people knew
his
his legacy
for Geelong.
Yeah, before he went over there, and it should be said. I don't know what the date is for this. Maybe you might, working within the sport industry, but there's a state funeral that's going to be happening.
Yeah, I don't know what the date is. No, but I do know that's going forward, and that's.
I mean that is the same level of recognition as what Jim Stein's.
Yeah,
Jim Stein's had a state funeral.
Yeah.
That's. It cannot be understated what this man.
No, he's been absolutely
influenced in the AFL.
Yeah, and will continue to influence even in his passing. So we give our respects to Polly Farmer and also to his family.
Not to understate anything, but we do have to move on.
Yeah, we're going into the teams.
We're going into the teams now. Do you want to start with the first game of the round?
Yes, Friday night. Absolute blockbuster, this one. Melbourne takes on Sydney at the MCG. In for Melbourne comes Marty Hoare, Billy Stretch, Spargo, Neil Bullen, and Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
Out goes Baker, Hunt, May, McDonald, and Petty. Chandler is new. He's a debutant for Melbourne, is he? Cade Chandler.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
It is there.
Oh, it is there. Yep. And Sydney, we've got Kieran Jack comes in for Zach Jones, who is injured.
Yes.
So, I don't really know what to think much of this game. I think Melbourne's going to win. I'll tell you that now. But outside of that, I don't know
I've got Sydney.
You've got Sydney?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't even know who our certainties are and everything. We haven't been through these games at all, actually.
No. We'll work that out. We'll get there.
Yeah. Do you think this is a 50-50?
Yeah, and I'm not going anywhere near it with my certainty because I don't like Sydney on the MCG a whole heap. And
really?
I don't know why. I don't know the stats behind that.
Statistically, Sydney play pretty well at the MCG.
Okay, Bomber Hill Plays has got Sydney.
Yeah,
Docker fan's going to side with his fellow Docker fan and go with me and go Melbourne. So
D's. Yeah,
I'm going for the D's. You get to take us through Carlton and the Saints.
Yeah, Sydney for mine. Okay, so Carlton and the Saints. Carlton and St Kilda play at the MCG on Saturday. Let's just swap this up here. It hasn't taken that. That's annoying. Okay, doesn't matter. Yeah,
we digress.
That's okay. So in for Carlton is Matt Kennedy, Paddy Dow. Out goes Liam Jones and Darcy Lang. Now, is Liam and Zach? Are they? No, Zach is the brother
Nathan.
Of
Nathan, which is a shame. They could have played each other, which they have many times before.
That's true.
Yeah.
And for St Kilda, in comes Nathan Brown, and out goes Nathan Caulfield.
Nick Caulfield.
Yeah,
who got hurt? He got hurt in the Freo game.
It's an interesting one for me.
It's a super interesting
one.
Yeah.
Because obviously you've got the caretaker coaches coming up against each other. I think it's the first time this season that the caretaker coaches have come up against each other.
And he's the only caretaker coach that is yet to assume a full role.
That's you're not wrong.
Yeah, so maybe Brett Ratton's a little bit hungry in this game. Who knows?
No, I think Carlton.
Carlton too.
This is a very emotional week for Carlton.
Yeah, and I think they're pumped. I mean, I know they're pumped. Listen to their players when David Teague walks into the press conference. Also, St Kilda... Yeah, they beat Freo last week. And yeah, Stephen and Hanbury both played really well. But they didn't impress me a whole heap. Like, I was deflated at the end of that Freo loss. But I wasn't
Freo probably should have won that game, really.
Yeah, I wasn't overly frustrated. I mean, given the team that Freo had out on the park, it was St Kilda versus Nat 5. That's what it was.
Which doesn't really bode well for Fremantle either.
No, not at all. But it also doesn't impress me for St Kilda. So I'm going to go with Carlton in this game. In fact, I'm going to back Carlton in as my certainty.
You're an arse.
Were you just about
to jump that? Yeah.
I got halfway through that sentence and hesitated. And, I'm sticking with it.
You're committed now. There's no turning back.
Committed.
There's no turning back.
Carlton's going to get
I'm going Carlton as well. Yep.
Excellent. All right, I'll take us through the next one where we've got Brisbane versus Geelong at the Gabba. This is huge. Second versus first on the ladder at second's home. And in for Geelong is Mark O'Connor and out goes Sam Menegola. Brisbane makes no
changes, yeah.
No change. So Brisbane were very confident in what they produced last week when they absolutely belted the Gold Coast, which Jarryd Lyons made super awkward, by the way, just by dominating his old team who let him go for nothing.
When that trade happened...
Was it a trade or did they just delist him? I think they delisted him.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure they just delisted him.
I could not make sense of that because Jarryd Lyons last year was their best player.
He was their best midfielder, and they just dropped him, and he's not even that old.
It straight up made no sense. It's not great.
And now he's part of absolutely. In fact, he's a key cog in a dominant midfield. Who I think
took him a little bit, I think, to establish himself in it. I don't think he started the year.
Didn't do much in the first half of the year, no.
But he's definitely picked his pace up.
Yeah, which has given Neil and Zorko a hell of a lot of leeway,
of freedom. Yeah.
So I'm going to go Brisbane in this game.
I think Brisbane as well. I'm not confident enough to put a certainty on it, that's for sure.
No, not at all, because you don't know which Geelong's going to rock up. I read on AFL.com.au this week that they're banking on their defense to get them over the line, essentially.
Probably.
To stop Brisbane
and the
scoring.
defense is very good. However, in the back half of the year, their defense has not been great.
And it's a hell of a lot easier to stop North Melbourne scoring than it is to stop Brisbane scoring. So... I mean, go figure.
Points.
I'm backing Brisbane. I'm finally going to take them seriously.
I'm backing Brisbane as well.
It's been a long time coming.
But in saying that, I'm not 100% side. Like, that's a genuine 50-50 game. Like, either of those teams could easily pluck a win out of that.
I mean, and Bomber has just said in the comments there that he thinks the Cats are slowing down.
Cats have been slowing down over the back half of the year. 100%.
But I don't know if that's true at this very present moment, if they're slowing down or if they've just sort of stagnated and now they're picking up again. Who knows? Maybe their performance last week is an indicator that they're ready to do something.
No.
We'll find out this week.
I think last week was more of an indicator on North than it was on Geelong.
You're probably
to only
right.
kick one goal, like
not
not even Gold Coast has only kicked one goal in a game.
Yeah,
that's
bad.
That was North Melbourne's worst score in its entire history, and that includes the very first game of AFL or VFL at the time, where the scores were something like 12 and 14, but North Melbourne weren't a part of that at the time. That includes that game. So it's not great.
Yeah, no, that's
Melbourne's
an indictment on
history. Its worst score.
Okay, it's probably actually an indictment on Geelong then to only kick 69 points themselves.
Well, the weather wasn't great for scoring.
Oh, okay.
That's why. But yeah, I can't. 1 and 8. Oh, that's We'll
Okay, we'll give North Melbourne another basting in a couple of games, but for me, it's Brisbane.
Brisbane for mine. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, you want to take us through the Crows and Pies?
Crows and Pies at Adelaide Oval, Saturday twilight game. In for Adelaide is Seedsman and O'Brien comes back in the team, but out goes Atkins and Otten. So O'Brien and Jacobs is playing together.
Yeah, that was my first thought too when I read that earlier today.
Why would you do that so late in the season?
Maybe
when finals is on the line, shouldn't this be the time where you're trying to stabilize your team?
Yeah, instead of experimenting.
Yeah.
And my thought also was that this would have made sense if they did one of those weird things where they drop Josh Jenkins again, and you can run one of them forward.
Yeah.
But they have stacked in the forward line now.
They have a super tall forward line.
They got a super tall team now.
2 ruckman.
Yeah.
I don't know what the weather is going to be like on the weekend.
No, I don't know that. And I'm
hoping it's going to be dry.
This game is in Adelaide Saturday twilight, so I don't know. Can one of our many Adelaide fans? Joel's just whacked the Pies in as his tip. Joel's an vivid Adelaide fan. I love that.
I mean, maybe they've just brought in the 2 ruckmen to contend with Grundy.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe they
because Grundy's so dominant.
I don't know though. If they had never have brought Jacobs back and just still had Riley O'Brien, I would have thought
I think that would have been fine. Yeah,
there's worse places to be than Riley O'Brien versus Grundy. Who knows? Maybe at some point they'll have all 3 of them on their list.
No, but, it's not great. Who are you going with though? I don't know.
I believe I did my ladder predictor for the final 2 rounds today because I got bored at work.
As you did.
So I did that, and I think I tipped Adelaide to win this game. Because Noble and Dacos kind of cancel each other out. The ins and outs.
Adelaide probably need to win this game, or one of the last 2 games. So this one or the last. I don't know who they play next round.
That's a very good question. If Joel's still in the chat there, yeah, he is. Can you tell us who Adelaide have next round?
Yeah, because they need to win one of the last 2 games. And I think
they've got the Dogs in the last round, I think.
Yeah, but it's not even Adelaide Oval, so I don't think they'll win it. I think they need to win this against a weakened Collingwood.
A weakened Collingwood, like a severely weakened Collingwood.
In saying that, I think Collingwood win this.
You think they win?
Yeah.
What gets them over the line?
Even though they've been smashed by injuries, they're still a fairly balanced team.
Yeah. And still got a potent midfield.
It should also be noted that after halftime last week, their forward entries completely changed.
Really?
Yeah. So in the first half of last week, Collingwood were basically bombing the ball in on top of Elliott's head. They have no recognised tall in the forward line, so they were playing like they had a stacked tall forward line.
Right, okay.
In the second half, however, they started lowering their eyes and actually hit targets in their forward line and played much, much better. If they can do that, specifically against Adelaide's defence, which I think is pretty decent.
Yeah.
The bombing on Elliott's head is not going to work.
No, it's not. Which forces them to lower their eyes.
And if they can do that, they will get on top of Adelaide.
I can see your point. I just think Adelaide's midfield, like Collingwood's just so bolstered and run by their midfield, as most AFL teams are. But them so much that I think Adelaide has enough in their midfield that if they actually come to play, they'll quell that. And then going forward, if you've got, Fogarty, I mean, why on God's green planet was this man not in the side earlier?
Because they were testing him in defence. For some unknown goddamn reason, he's the most natural forward I've seen play.
I don't know what the hell he was doing in the sidelines until round 21.
He's got one of the best kicks at goal.
Yeah, and it was silky smooth. I went back and watched his highlights. I think with him in the side,
right.
I think he makes that big of a difference that he just gives Adelaide another scoring dynamic as well. I think they get over the line in this game. And I just kind of want them to win because Joel's tipped the pies as well. So, Crows for me. Which, Collingwood for you, obviously.
Collingwood for me, yeah.
Stated that. Which leads us to North Melbourne and Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium on Saturday night. For North, in comes Durden and out goes Mason Wood, who is omitted.
Look at that. Can't even see my good work.
Anyways, in for Port Adelaide.
All right.
In for Port Adelaide. No, I do appreciate it. I think it looks very good.
No.
In for Port Adelaide, Ryan Burton and Zach Butters, while Xavier Dersma and Cam Sutcliffe go out. I believe Dersma's injured, so
with
Sutcliffe
his heel. Yep.
omitted.
See, it's even got that there for you.
Yes, it does. You're well ahead of me. Burton and Butters coming in is good. Mason Wood being omitted.
But Dersma and Sutcliffe going out. I think Sutcliffe's been pretty good.
Yeah, he's been handy.
Yeah. And obviously Dersma is pretty good in the back.
Yeah. Burton for Dersma doesn't bother me, but Butters needs to actually come in and play some decent footy and not hit like some sort of rookie wall or something at this back end of the season.
Yeah.
He needs to be playing some pretty good football in this game. The worrying thing for North is they've dropped one of their forwards after they still only just kicked one goal. But I'm guessing they dropped him because they only kicked one goal.
But you can hardly blame the forwards in that game.
Yeah. Geelong's got a really good defence. I think a league-leading defence.
Yep.
Probably stiff.
But they're like North entries were... I mean, that's not how you teach Oz kickers how to...
It's a weird game because based on last week's performances, I just want to say Port Adelaide's going to blitz them. But does Port Adelaide just do that weird thing where they don't rock up?
Yeah, it's also that. But North Melbourne... I see. What's very interesting is North Melbourne had a really strong period in the middle of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think since the West Coast loss, they've not been great.
They've run out of gas.
Yeah.
They've run out of gas.
This is probably where North Melbourne would have been playing, I think, had they started the year properly.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm going Port Adelaide regardless of anything. I'm
going to go Port Adelaide.
Port Adelaide is one of my sides to make the 8 in this rat race.
I'm going to make this my certainty.
Yeah.
I'm not confident on it though because it's Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what team is going to show up. But I'm locking it in, Eddie.
Are we ever confident on a certainty? I guess that's the point, is to not be confident. But well, we should have been last week.
Should have been last week. Yeah, last week was a great week.
Yeah, last week was excellent. Okay. Alas, we move on to the next game of the round, which we will be watching together.
We will be, yes. I did have a slight note next to this one. Fremantle versus Essendon. It's going to be happening at 8:10 Eastern Standard Time, 6:10 for us.
Yep.
We will be doing a watch party for this game. Now, obviously, your team let us down last week.
Yes,
so
they did.
A bit of the bite has, there's a bit of it has lost.
It's such a bummer. I was watching the game, and usually I'm just deflated when Freo lose anyway, but to lose with 40 seconds on the clock and the way they did and cut finals basically out of the equation was a bummer. But literally when the siren went, all I could think was, oh no, our watch party, the sting just totally got taken out of it.
There is still some small sting in it, in that if Freo win, it really hurts the Bombers.
Yeah, it does.
And as we go through the list, the Bombers, on the back of making 6 changes last week,
have made 5
omissions.
And all forced. No injuries, because how do you get injured when you're not on a park? Because no one rocked up last week.
This team has absolutely no stability at all.
I feel like the comment section could get ugly here because we got a lot of Bombers fans on tonight, and guys, your team sucked last week. So did mine, but this was bad.
Okay, so
sorry, go through the inclusions. Here we go.
I just want to say before the inclusions, in a week where GWS get absolutely smashed, in a week where North Melbourne record their lowest score in their history, the Bombers concede 21 goals in a row and are the bigger stories than a team that only scores 1 goal for the entire match. What in the world happened there? And yes, I know that, Andrew, I couldn't be bothered changing the pictures and stuff around. I was running out of time, all right?
Wow, with the Bombers.
Know,
wow,
right?
With the Bombers. I was watching it. I was at a bar in Bunbury, and I looked up at the screen for the first time. It was like midway through the fourth quarter. Jackson McRae had just strolled in and booted a goal to push it out to like 120 points or something. And I just looked at my mate and went, is this like a throwback to somewhere, or is this like for real? What?
I know, yeah. It is probably the most... That loss was a worse loss, in my opinion, than what Geelong dished out to Melbourne in 2012.
Yeah, I would totally agree, man, because Melbourne was a bottom feeder.
And a coach lost their job over that game.
Yeah, Melbourne was a total bottom feeder. This is a team that's in the top 8 against a team that's not in the top 8.
Yeah.
That just got absolutely derailed, demoralized, and just they got killed. Anyways,
what's the stigma, Will? I don't know what you're talking about there, man. Yeah, all right. So let's go through the ins and outs, okay? Yeah. In for Fremantle, McCarthy and Ballantyne. Now, Ballantyne's only getting a game because it's his farewell game, which I'm not too disappointed in, considering they're not going to make finals.
Yeah, that's okay.
Out goes Carter and Banfield for McCarthy and Ballantyne. What do you think of that?
Banfield was really poor last week after a really good game against Geelong. I was calling for him to be dropped mid-game because, heat of the moment, that's what I do. I make selection calls.
I'm very interested to watch you watch Freo play.
Yeah, this should be good. Carter had a really poor game after playing okay in his first game, in his debut game, but no, he didn't do much. He just kind of played in a side that was really up and about the week before.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with both those drops, and I'm actually fine with both inclusions. McCarthy is okay for, he's the best of a bad situation with the injuries at the moment that they have. So you bring him in for a little bit of forward structure. You've got something to kick to rather than nothing. And Ballantyne, it's a farewell game, whatever. We don't have anything else left. So, you may as well bring them in.
That's fair. For Essendon incomes, Hurley, Parrish, Ham, Sard, and Francis.
Yep.
Out goes Begley, Clark, strangely.
Yeah.
McNeese, Myers, and Bagley. And surprisingly, Heppel stays in.
Yeah, well, that really backfired on them last week because that was the plan, wasn't it? Bring Heppel in, get over the line, get a win, start finals, rest Heppel. Now it's like you lost and you're still playing him.
We have to play him again.
It's like, what?
How bad is
forced
his
into
it? Is it his ankle?
I think it's his ankle.
Yeah. Or it's his foot at the very least.
Yeah,
what's your tip?
Dockers for me, man.
Yeah, I think Freo as well.
I didn't hate the way Freo played last week.
I think
just
Freo
kind of
get up for Sandilands and Ballantyne.
God damn it, I hope so.
Yeah.
But I think I wasn't annoyed at the way Freo played last week. I thought they had a real crack. And to be honest, I was frustrated that they're going to miss out on finals again, but I was kind of proud of the way the young kids sort of held themselves in a tight game against some pretty seasoned guys in Stephen and Hanbury.
They've won more games. Are they on 9 now?
Yeah, they're on 9. Yeah. So they've won more games than they did last year.
Finally won more games than they have for the last 3 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm backing the Dockers in. I don't think Essendon's anywhere near playing good football. Well, I know that they are nowhere near playing good football.
They haven't been playing good football since before the Suns win.
And I think Fremantle, led by Nat Fyfe, will get a win. Nat Fyfe was superb last week.
I'm telling you, he is superb. My favourite for the Brownlow.
He jumped up to equal top of the AFL.com.au Brownlow predictor that I bang on about all the time because I'm just watching it because of that man.
Yep.
So they're predicting that he's got 25 votes alongside Patrick Cripps at the moment. I think with 2 big games to finish the year, he should actually win that award. That's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to tip that to be happening. So anyways, that moves us on to the biggest game of the round, biggest game of the season so far.
Just quickly beforehand. Yes, Docker fan, we will be doing a watch party for this game.
Yeah.
And Andrew, no. He's calling back to a Jonathan Brown quote early on in the year.
Yeah, no,
I think Freo were
really lost momentum.
Were above West Coast by one spot.
Yeah, something like that. And then it all came crashing down.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brown.
Nice one, Brownie.
Yeah, cheers.
All right. Richmond versus West Coast at the MCG, the first Sunday match. You want to take us to the teams?
Huge game.
Now, this is extended benches.
Yeah, extended benches. So no outs for Richmond yet. They welcome back Dustin Martin, along with Arts, Soldo, and Marlon Pickett. Arts and Pickett haven't played, and I'm guessing probably won't, given that they have no one to bring out except put Dusty in. And then West Coast also no outs given the Sunday game. Marston, Vardy, Rotham, Cameron among the potential inclusions. Your thoughts
Vardy's
for
an interesting one.
Yeah, your thoughts for West Coast? I really want to gauge the Vardy stuff.
I wouldn't put until Hickey starts to play bad. No, I wouldn't. And Oscar Allen as a back of ruckman has been doing pretty well.
He's fine, and he's been doing great as a forward.
I'm not sure that you actually need to change anything in the team because Yo might go to Dusty, which would be good.
Yeah.
Hutchings could then go to someone else. Or you could put Hutchings on Dusty and free up Yo.
Yeah.
Which I reckon would be the best way to start the game.
I think that, and if it's successful, just keep rolling with it. Yeah. If it's not, make the
because
change.
Yo's going to be more damaging on the attack than he is on the defense. But in saying that, he can also get on the attack whilst he's on the defense.
Yeah.
But I think he's more damaging on offense than what Hutchings is. Yes. Obviously.
Yeah.
But Hutchings, in saying that, Hutchings can play on the half forward flank fairly well.
Yeah, he doesn't do a bad job.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only change for this game I anticipate is maybe I don't know which fringe player Richmond has that's going to come out. Maybe it's like Jack Ross or something like that, like a young guy for Dustin Martin. And that's going to be the only change. I know West Coast travel well. I know they do, but I'm not backing them. I'm going with the Tigers. I tipped the Tigers a few weeks ago to win the flag, and I'm going to stick with that.
I am backing in West Coast.
I thought you might. And I don't think that that's a biased decision. I think that's actually a fair decision.
Richmond on their surge up have only played a bad Collingwood.
Yeah.
On the back of their 8-win streak.
Yeah.
This is the first team that they're actually coming up against that's decent.
Yeah.
Since I think the start of the year.
Yeah.
And obviously West Coast play the MCG very, very well. I think West Coast get over Richmond.
I'm intrigued to who do Richmond finish with next week, because if they get
the Lions,
so they get a really good test as to where they're at prior to finals.
I think they'll beat the Lions.
Yeah, at the MCG.
Yeah. But I think they drop this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with them in this one. I just love the way they've been playing footy. I love watching the way the Tigers have been playing
I've
footy.
already used my certainty, Andrew. See, I was clever. I avoided this game with my certainty like the plague, man. There's no way I'm touching this game with my certainty.
I totally understand why you're going to tip West Coast. I just don't think they're going to get up.
Yeah.
I'm going to
What do you think this means for the loser of the game, though?
I don't think it means much.
Unless Richmond absolutely flog West Coast, the positions of the team stay the same.
I don't think it means much for either if they lose, because I think either can lose. Like either side, whoever loses is going to go away from this game going.
Well, let's go through the scenarios.
We know it's still good.
Let's go through the scenarios. If Richmond wins big, what happens?
West Coast come home and say, "Hey, we've got top 4 sewn up." That's at least one final in Perth. I don't think it matters to West Coast that much. Yeah.
If Richmond wins close, it's probably not going to matter too much.
No,
what
that might even be more of a morale
if West Coast gets up smaller, so a small win.
I think if West Coast gets up smaller, that's probably the most significant outcome that can come away, because they will be totally elated by going into an absolute battle against a powerhouse at the MCG and coming away with a narrow win that they knew they had to dig deep for.
Yeah.
I think that would give them a full head of steam moving towards the finals.
What if West Coast win big?
Then I think you can almost pin it down to a bad day for Richmond rather than a good day for West Coast. It's like, right. And not to take anything away from West Coast, are very good, but I think you could look at Richmond and go, there are so many things you could have done better if they lose big. So that makes me think that a small West Coast win somehow is better than just blowing them out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's weird logic, but that's what I'm running with.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Which takes us through to GWS and the Doggies.
Yes.
So very important game. Do you want to take us through these?
Yeah. All right. So extended benches in for GWS. Kelly,
huge.
De Boer,
big.
Himmelberg,
huge.
Cumming, Sproul,
or Sproul,
and Core.
Yeah.
Out goes Deledio and Cameron. That's Jeremy Cameron, isn't it?
That is Jeremy Cameron.
Ooh, interesting. So obviously Kelly's going to come back in. If De Boer's available, you bring him back in because when he came out of this team, GWS fell apart.
They lost so much.
They fell apart completely.
He brings a huge amount to this team.
Yeah. I think he's more important to this team than Kelly, which is saying something.
That's not a bad call because when Kelly goes out, you can go, okay, well, let's lean on, I know he's injured now.
They have players to cover him.
But let's lean on Canelio, or let's lean on Taranto, or let's lean on, like Zach Williams has piped up and done a brilliant job.
And that's nothing to take away from Kelly.
Kelly's
an elite player.
He's a gun.
But De Boer brings something to the team that no other player on their list can bring to the team.
Absolutely.
And that's his point of difference.
Yeah.
That's why he's so important.
Elite toughness, which is something that I don't think many other GWS players have at all.
For the Western Bulldogs, in comes Young, West, Porter, and Young.
Yep. So Lewis and Lockie on the bookends there.
I'm glad you got that.
I don't really know much about either of them, but I read their names earlier today.
I just saw Le Young and La Young. I'm like, huh? Who wins this? Is that Giant Stadium?
I think Jeremy Cameron being out is actually huge because
Himmelberg comes in, though.
Himmelberg comes in, which is good. It's good. But Jeremy Cameron is the elite point is an elite point for GWS where the Bulldogs would be at a very weak point in their team. Like, the Bulldogs aren't great shutting down key forwards, I don't think.
No.
And
never have been.
No, because they don't have the one guy to sit there and do it. The one guy that does is Aaron Norton, and he plays up forward.
They've never had, beyond Norton this year, I suppose, and Norton last year when he was in the key post. They've never had a strong key positional player at either end of the field.
I mean, the year they won the flag, it was Marcus Adams who got injured, and they brought in Joel Hamling. So it's not like they don't
they've lost
that
now.
person.
Both of them.
Yeah, they don't have that person. So it's actually quite a massive deal for Cameron to not be playing where he could have just destroyed whoever he was on.
Yeah.
Now they get a bit of a reprieve and go, hey, yeah, Himmelberg's good, but is he going to run rings around us? Who knows?
Does GWS bounce back after their, let's be honest, pretty soft, disappointing loss?
Really disappointing, and it was soft.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, they'd been bad for 3 weeks. They'd just been falling over the line. They got a 1-point win over Port, a 2-point win over Sydney, and they had just been falling over the line at the right time. They ran into a side that wasn't going to let them do that.
Now that they've been humiliated, I mean, they are a good team.
Yeah, and they do.
Do they respond?
They do. I think they do respond, and I think being at Giant Stadium, they get the win.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to go with it. I think getting Josh Kelly back is massive. De Boer, massive, and Himmelberg will do enough to cause headaches for the Dogs. He at least occupies someone. I think they win. They tend to respond pretty well because they get called out a lot for these weak performances.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when they lost it was at the MCG earlier this year, and people just threw into question their ability to win at the MCG. They turned around and they whipped the Demons like 2 weeks later at the MCG.
Yeah.
So I think GWS.
I think GWS get this as well.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a tight one for me.
Yeah, it should be a really good game. And the Dogs need to win, essentially.
Dogs need to win to keep their final chances alive.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I did my ladder predictor today, as I was saying, and the Dogs just missed out because they lost this game.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with GWS, which leads us into the team that whipped GWS last week.
Yeah.
Hawthorn is taking on Gold Coast, who something. I mean, they're desperate. The Ins. The Ins. Roughead gets his farewell game. Yay. Scrimshaw comes in. McAvoy, Gunston, and Morrison. Out goes Mitchell Lewis, which is pretty pretty annoying because he was playing some good footy.
It was, yeah, but Gunston obviously comes in. Oh,
Yeah, or Roughead, I guess.
well, if Gunston's available, you probably play him, don't you?
I guess I don't imagine you wouldn't play Jack Gunston. And for the Gold Coast in is George Holland-Smith, Jordan Murdoch, and then Shea, Peter Wright, and Young. Out goes Anthony Miles with an ankle injury. Hawthorn are going to... I mean, they're going to romp them, are my thoughts. This is at Marvel, by the way.
You would hope so.
Yeah. Particularly with the fact that finals are still available to Hawthorn, aren't
the
they?
fairy tale out of this is that Roughead plays well. Kicks 4 goals.
Yeah, I mean, we hope so, don't we?
Yeah. Kicks a bag.
And they've kind of brought him in as a farewell game, and they're still actually available. Like, should they somehow upset West Coast the next week, they would play finals.
Well, they might play
potentially.
Finals. Yeah.
They would need the percentage, but
because they're on the same wins as Freo at the moment, aren't they?
I think they've got one more. I think they went into last week as the same wins as Freo.
Well, I hope they win this because we're doing a watch party with West Coast and Hawthorn next week.
Oh yeah, of course.
So if they win this and finals is in the balance and West Coast top 2 chances in the balance,
then that should be very entertaining to watch.
Very interesting
match
to undertake. Yeah.
So Hawthorn will romp this game.
Yes,
make no mistake.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I think they'll absolutely smash it. And then
now I want to say as well, for anyone that's living in Melbourne, okay, even if you don't support the Hawks, get along to this game because this is a player. He is, as has been described throughout the week, the people's champion. He is the AFL people's champion.
Yeah.
Make sure, if you can, go along to Marvel Stadium and send off the people's champion.
He will. This is a guy who will walk into the Hall of Fame. I think
probably
4 premierships is like, I know that he has like a bundle of teammates that also did it, but it's not common. It's not common at all to win 4 of them. And this is a guy who's just held his head through everything that he's been through.
He's had a massive Achilles injury, which many thought he wouldn't come back from.
I mean, he's battled cancer
twice.
So let's, totally. And I did like the dig that he had at Buddy Franklin in the press conference. Did you catch a load of? I think it was Clarkson was saying, Clarkson was reeling off Roughhead's achievements to the reporters and going, he's won 4 premierships and he's done it with good mates. Lewis and Franklin have both won 4, and then Roughead like stopped him immediately and was like, "Hang on, Bud won 2.
Yeah,
like Bud got 2. Let's not get carried away."
Yeah, fair enough.
And they spent like 30 seconds having a dig at Bud for leaving for Sydney.
Yeah, they wouldn't do that if they weren't good mates. Though.
Yeah,
you could definitely see and tell that they're still good mates.
Yeah. Hawthorn's going to win this game against the Gold Coast quite convincingly.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah,
and maybe get some percentage booster just to really
that would
make
put the heat on. I don't know what they
make things interesting.
What's their percentage?
Well, it's now at about 102 because they beat GWS so convincingly.
Yeah.
I think they went up like 5%.
So they've got a percentage that matches Adelaide right now, or Port Adelaide.
I think so,
which is important. Because I mean, at the end of the day, they have to get over.
I think
West
Port
Coast
Adelaide's
in Perth
107 and Adelaide's 102, or it's the other way around. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Regardless, it's going to come down to whether they can beat West Coast or not in Perth next week. So it's a hell of a hurdle for them to jump. But if they can smash the Gold Coast and head in on form, anything can happen.
No, it can't.
God, I hope it does. So that's the games. That's us.
Yes,
Certainty's locked in. I've got Carlton to beat the Saints, and you've got Port Adelaide to beat North.
Yeah.
I'm not confident at all.
Confident on that one.
As soon as I started backing Carlton in, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah, Carlton.
What am I doing?
What? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
All right. So that takes us back to our questions.
It does, yes.
Now, you read mine out first. Why don't you go ahead and answer mine first?
All right. So the question to remind everybody was, the Crows have come out and said they're open to trading the Carlton pick as they look to restock quantity of young talent. I'm going to be arguing it's the wrong move, and I'll tell you why it's the wrong move.
Okay. Fire away.
In pretty much one fell swoop. In the entire history of the Adelaide Football Club, they have never had a pick inside the top 5. They this year have an opportunity to have pick 3, depending on what happens with priority picks. Could be pick 4, depending on... At this stage, it's looking at pick 3.
Yeah.
Please use it.
Just
draft a top pick talent and see
where the
see
guy
what
takes
you can get, because
yeah.
clearly the Adelaide Crows are very good at identifying talent throughout the draft.
Oh, 100%.
But later on down the draft. So how, you must be even better at identifying top level talent early in the draft, right? How about you just try?
I mean, I have to rebuttal you and give you why they should go ahead and trade it. But just to reaffirm your point before I do that, they're not getting low picks because they never finish that low.
That's right.
They don't. So why not when you get the
you have the opportunity?
They don't even have to finish low to get it. It's clearly Carlton's pick. So why bother? Why trade it? You've just got the luxury of that? Why I will say they should trade it. And bring in, I mean, look, the situation is that if they traded it, they would probably get 2 first-round picks, one being, I don't know who would take it, but let's say one's around pick 10 and the other's around pick 15 or something like that. And they think that they can hit on both of those guys, like they do most years when they have to draft at that place, at that spot. The reason I think they should do it is this draft specifically is touted to have like 2 or 3 gun players. Matt Roll is one who's supposed to be.
It's not a 2018 draft class. Put it that way.
It's not going to go that deep. And then after the 2 or 3 guns, it goes to. I think they're saying it's something like 14 or 15 guys who you could sort of just throw into a bracket, and you pick them on, potential, and maybe you hit, maybe you miss. I think if they think that they can get 2 guys who are going to be really good, like if they drop down to a pick 10 and a pick 15, and they think, hey, those 2 picks are still going to be guys who are really good, like guys that are as good as pick 4, like maybe we can get 2 really good guys instead of the 1 megastar, and that's essentially what they're saying they want to do.
Yeah,
so that's why I think they should do it. That's why I have to argue they should do it, but I'm kind of with you. I don't think they should be straying away from potentially getting one of those top 3 elite guys. Yeah. So your question to me, was Reece Shaw appointed too early? And I have to argue that he was not. And the one thing I'm going to use to do that is decisiveness and what it can do for a club.
Right.
I said before, referencing David Teague, that it just got rid of questions for Carlton. They know who their man is. They move forward. That's kind of why I like why North Melbourne did it.
Right.
I think that having the ability to just go, this is our coach, this is our guy, the players clearly believe in him. I mean, yes, it was quick, and you can view it as trigger happy because the players, they believe in him for the 4 or 5 weeks that he was coaching in. Great. But, I mean, if the players believe and they're buying in, then you're already halfway there. You just got to implement a good game plan, and I trust Reece Shaw to do that. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying with how decisive the North Melbourne Football Club was, it's going to advance them rather than have them sitting on their hands. That's my argument.
To be sure, and the draft's even out of the top 2, they say. Fair enough, Jesse. So I'm arguing that that this was the right choice, yeah?
That this, was... sorry.
No, that they did do it too early.
Yes, you're arguing that they did do it too early.
My argument for doing it too early, though, okay, so if... Let's say that they hadn't appointed Reece Shaw yet, and Ratton doesn't get signed up by St Kilda.
Yeah.
Would you take Ratton over Reece Shaw?
I don't think I would if I was North Melbourne. I'd take Reece Shaw.
Okay. But at the end of the year, right, have you had those conversations yet with Brett Ratton?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Did you have a conversation with David Teague, who I think is probably the best of the 3 caretaker coaches, who wasn't necessarily guaranteed a job before this week, probably was, but at the time that Reece Shaw was signed, he wasn't guaranteed.
Yeah.
Had you had the conversation with him yet?
I don't know. They did say they did their due diligence, so I'm wondering
if they did their due diligence.
Did
but
they
how due diligence how much can you do with contracted coaches?
Yeah, how much availability did they
Exactly. You can't really sit down with a contracted coach and go through a full plan with them.
Yeah.
Now, clearly that hasn't happened, so you can't have done as much due diligence as you're trying to let on to believe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is my point. Like I said 2 or 3 weeks ago, I don't mind the appointment of Rhys Shaw. I do think he is the right appointment, but making it when they did was the wrong move.
Yeah.
They should have waited until the end of the season. Now, all of a sudden, and this is what we were saying when he was appointed, except we made the scenario that if he lost all 4 games, right?
Yeah.
Now, he's won 1 game, he's lost 2, but those 2 have been by 49 points, and however much they lost, 59 points or something. But they have, under Rhys Shaw, in his first 3 games as an official coach, the worst score ever recorded by a North Melbourne team.
Yeah.
Like, if that happened and he wasn't signed, do you think he gets the job after this?
Probably not as quickly.
Brings
Definitely
questions
not as
into
quickly.
it, though. I bet you they would be doing a lot more due diligence if he wasn't already signed.
That's a good way to put it. I'm not ready to string up Rhys Shaw on that worst score, though. I'm not ready to put that on Rhys Shaw. I need him to, or I want him to have, or I want to give him a full preseason and then have his own list, make his own changes this offseason, bring in a few guys that maybe he likes himself, implement them where he likes them, and go from there. Because right now he's sort of playing with someone else's toys, you know, in a way. I know that they're not going to have a major list overhaul.
No,
you know,
they're not in one off season. No.
Yeah, they're not going to do that in one off season. So he's still going to have many of the same pieces. But I'm not ready to put that on Rhys Shaw, rather than perhaps that was the circumstance that it was just always going to happen with a North Melbourne team like this, running out of gas with a new coach.
Are you saying that 14 points was always going to happen?
Not 14 points.
If Brad Scott was coaching, do you think they score only 14 points?
No, I don't. I am curious to know who was injured, but I also just can't sit here and go, hey, if you had this guy, that's the reason you only scored 14 points. I can't excuse 14 points, but I also can't lay the full blame of that on the feet of Rhys Shaw. No,
the blame goes to the players and the coach.
Yeah.
But 14 points in this day and age, that's a travesty.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cam.
Yeah, thanks for the compliment. But it is a travesty. It's really bad. But I'm going to give Rhys Shaw more time. Drew's still out for me. That's why I think I'm going to give him more time.
I think
because
North
Melbourne
I
didn't
think
take
he deserves
any time.
more time. I just think his appointment was too early.
Yeah, which is a fair opinion.
Yeah, because now it's just put undue stress on his position.
Yeah, to perform
before
in the back
his
end.
first year.
Thankfully, he only has to sweat it out through 2 more weeks, and if they can perform okay against Port Adelaide, even a dismal finish, they'll go whatever. We'll reload with Rhys Shaw. Permanent. So there's not too much pressure on him. It's probably a bit of perceived pressure, but I can see that
there's more pressure for him next year.
Oh, 100%. There's pressure next year. He needs to be winning some games next year, or at least be showing a brand of football.
Well, it depends on what they go, because it was said when they sacked Brad Scott that they disagreed on the position that they should take for the rest of the year or the years moving forward. Now, we don't know whether that meant that they disagreed whether they should go through a rebuild or relaunch or target finals again. We don't know what that was. The key decisions, I suppose, that'll be made on players and the key movements that'll be made over the off-season will tell us whether North Melbourne are committing to a rebuild.
What that road is.
That's right, yeah. So depending on what happens in the off-season and the movements that they make in the off-season, I think will determine what level of pressure we'll be on.
Yeah.
Because we'll know whether they're in a rebuild or whether they're in a relaunch.
Look, if they run out in round 1 with a team full of kids, there's still very little pressure on Rhys Shaw.
But if they run out with a team and they've done tradings and everything, and they've used their war chest,
that war chest, man.
and they run out with a stacked team and they don't improve,
well, that's. Yeah, then he's in hot water. But I think that's sort of the path that they're going to avoid. I see them going down the path of the kids.
I would hope so.
Because that was already what Brad Scott was doing. I mean, he ran out in round 1 this year and got pumped by Fremantle, I might add. With senior players in the team and not playing a whole bunch of kids.
Saying that, the same thing could be said with Brisbane and West Coast.
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, if they run out and they've got senior players and they get pumped, there's pressure on the coach. So we probably just went a long way around to state something quite obvious.
Yeah, probably.
Anyhow,
it is what it is. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah.
We are to the end of the episode now. let us know what you think of the new setup.
Yeah, as Cam just pointed out.
This has been more refined compared to last week. And obviously, we've got the new microphones and everything as well, which I'm hoping, I'll listen back to this, that the sound quality is, I'm hoping, is 100 times better.
Oh, yeah. I'm really looking forward to comparing this to the first episode, as I set off air. But also, coming up, we got the watch party, which we've already plugged.
We do have the watch party on Saturday night.
I believe it's a 6:10 start.
It's a 6:10 start, so the stream will start roughly about 6 o'clock. We'll get 10 minutes of pre-match time in. We've obviously got proceedings as normal next week, and then we have another watch party next week, West Coast versus Hawthorn.
So plenty coming your way with plenty of crunch games. Make sure you tune in on Saturday and watch me either, drown my sorrows in Emu Export or cheer on my boys to a win. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. As you would have seen in the comments and in the chat, the Discord link, I'm guessing, has been dropping.
It has been, yeah. It's in the description below as well.
So get on board, because if we get our certainties wrong this week, you can pipe up in the Discord.
And there's no guarantee this week compared to last week.
Oh man, no, this is. I'm really sketchy on Carlton beating St Kilda.
I'm not confident in Port.
Yeah, no.
I feel a bit sick tipping Port, actually.
You should be more confident, though. North Melbourne have been a disgrace lately, as we've just been pointing out. So, I don't know. I feel like I whiffed on not waiting for Port Adelaide. Anyhow, please leave a big thumbs up if you did like the stream, and subscribe to AFL Access. But for now, I think that's us.
It is, yeah. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys.
This has been your AFL Access.